2 Samuel 19 this morning. And as we learned last week, Absalom is dead. And David and his troops are returned to Mahanaim. That's the city on the far side of the Jordan, where they have been gathering since they were kicked out of Jerusalem. Let's have somebody read chapter 19, verses 1 through 8a. 1 through 8a. The first part of verse 8, or 18, or 8 rather.
It was told Joab, behold, the king is weeping and mourning for Absalom. So the victory that day was turned into mourning for all the people. For the people heard that day, the king is grieving for his son. And the people stole into the city that day, as people steal in who are ashamed when they flee in battle. The king covered his face, and the king cried with a loud voice, O my son, Absalom, O Absalom, my son, my son. Then Joab came into the house to the king and said, You have today covered with shame the faces of all your servants, who have this day saved your life and the lives of your sons and your daughters, and the lives of your wives and your concubines, because you love those who hate you, and hate those who love you. For you have made it clear today that commanders and servants are nothing to you. For today I know that if Absalom were alive, and all of us were dead today, then you would be pleased. Now therefore arise, go out and speak kindly to your servants, for I swear by the Lord, if you do not go, not a man will stay with you this night. And this will be worse for you than all the evil that has come upon you, from your youth until now. Then the king arose and took his seat in the gate.
And all the people were all told, Behold, the king is sitting in the gate, and all the people came before the king. Thank you, Kevin, for reading. How would you describe the relationship between David and Joab? We've seen Joab a number of times here in the story, and we're, of course, very familiar now with the life of David. How would you describe the relationship of these two men?
Off and on.
Off and on, okay, yeah. There's a little bit of tension there, isn't there? There's a little bit of tension.
Well, I think it feels that Joab feels betrayed by David mourning for his son.
Okay, yeah, they have all just been risking their lives in battle, trying to subdue Absalom's troops. And I don't know if David knows this yet or not, but Joab is personally responsible for the death of Absalom. So yeah, they've gone from those tensions now to what should be a joyous return to Jerusalem, shouldn't it? That's what they're anticipating. How's David responding to all of this, though?
Mourning for his son. Basically any parent would do. He's sad for the loss, and he's not even looking at the other things right now. He's just looking at the loss of his son.
Do you think David is a little bit blinded to the feelings of others in the circumstances? Yeah, I see the heads bobbing. Absolutely, he is. And is Joab right in what he says to David? You think so? You think so? His words are pretty forceful. They contain a threat, don't they? What's the threat? We're going to abandon you if you don't knock this off. Yeah.
They were responsible for all the people, not just the son?
Well, as king, right? As king, he is. Yeah, he's responsible for everyone under his governance. And in this case, the king is so distracted by his mourning that he's not thinking very clearly about the needs of the people, is he? He's not thinking very clearly.
But you're not being very empathetic of his loss.
Okay, yes, Joab in particular. Joab in particular, who had apparently lost any love that he may have at one time had for Absalom, and saw to it that he got killed. Yeah, this is a hardship for leaders to be on message when you're struggling personally. Right? David's off message here. He's not communicating to the people what he needs to communicate because of that personal struggle that he's experiencing in his life. Yeah. Anybody go through that before? Anybody in a leadership position have this kind of an experience? See some heads nodding? Yeah, there have been Sundays when I've gotten up to lead here at the church and I did not feel like it. That happens to me, okay, on occasion.
You can't please everybody all the time.
That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. Yeah.
You're forgiven.
Thank you. Yeah.
I was always told that if you're in a leadership position and all your employees love you, then you're doing something wrong.
Oh, really? Yeah.
What that breakdown did to him.
Yeah. Yeah, the goal of leadership isn't necessarily to make everybody happy, is it? You have other goals. There's things you're trying to reach and accomplish, and that will lead to tension. That will lead to tension, yeah.
Just that back to the Absalom thing, it was also, Absalom was killed while he was out trying to hunt David down and kill him. So, I mean, it was like, I think the people had a point in that.
Yeah.
He's getting, I mean, there's something, sometimes maybe you do that in private and you eat it in front of your public.
Yeah.
Your people.
Yeah, sometimes you got to put your face on, don't you? You got to put your face on and go out and do that public thing and hold back on the private. At the same time, you have to be careful that you're not alienating your own family. David's more or less done that, hasn't he, with his children? This is one of the complications of having so many wives and concubines, okay? You've got all this family, all these kids, and you can't possibly
Please them all.
please them all or show personal care or kindness to them. I mean, it's an impossible situation. But that's what the leaders in that day, they tended to do, is gather up all these wives and concubines and have all of these kids. It was part of what the noble class did. Okay? But it's, in David's case, it has gone very much against him and almost got him killed. It was that close to getting him killed. There's a reason God made Adam and Eve and not Eva and Evelyn and there's a reason he did that. He kept it simple. He kept it simple. Yeah.
You ever think they'll bring that back? I'm awful lonely.
Say again.
You ever think they'll bring back the concubine? I'm awful lonely.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Let's not go there, Jim. Let's not go there, Jim. We have confession and absolution upstairs at 11. Okay?
Maybe you can move to Utah.
Yeah. Oh dear. Okay. Oh dear. Yeah, the concubines will come back up at the end of the chapter, but let's keep it PG here, people. Oh, we've talked about David's relationship with Joab, also his relationship with the people. Now let's read chapter 8, verse 8b, so the end of verse 8, through verse 10. Yeah, the end of verse 8. Shall I read that so people can see what I'm reading? All right. So now Israel had fled, every man to his own home. And all the people were arguing throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, the king delivered us from the hand of our enemies and saved us from the hand of the Philistines. And now he has fled out of the land from Absalom. But Absalom, whom we anointed over us, is dead in battle. Now, therefore, why do you say nothing about bringing the king back? So what are people talking about? What accomplishments of David are they suddenly remembering in these circumstances?
Battles that he won, and conquering of Israel and, of course, Goliath.
Yes. Oh, yeah. They can. You can think all the way back to David's first public thing when he becomes the killer of Goliath. And a key thing that he does that Saul did not do. Saul unites Israel's tribes, which is a wonderful accomplishment, but he does not unite them to defeat the Philistines. That's David's accomplishment. And then David goes on to conquer a bunch of other territories as well. So the people suddenly, the amnesia that they had when they were all talking about following Absalom suddenly goes away, and they're remembering, oh, you know, David wasn't so bad. He did great things. He had great accomplishments. It's a little bit like, and we don't want to get off topic here about the nation, but if you follow the approval ratings, right? They ride up and down and up and down. The public can be very fickle in their views of a leader, and we see some of that happening here with David. Now that Absalom is dead, suddenly David looks so much better than he did previously. Verses 11 to 15 now, if someone would like to read. 11 to 15.
And King David sent this message to Zadok and Abiathar, the priest. Say to the elders of Judah, why should you be the last to bring the king back to his house, when the word of all Israel has come to the king? You are my brothers, you are my bone and my flesh. Why then should you be the last to bring back the king? And say to Amasa, you are not my bone and my flesh. God do so to me, and more also, if you are not commander of my army from now on in place of Joab. And he swayed the heart of all the men of Judah as one man, so that they sent the word to the king, return, both you and all your servants. So the king came back to the Jordan, and Judah came to Gilgal to meet the king and to bring the king over the Jordan.
Okay, thank you, Mike. So we're getting a little picture here of the structure of life in Israel, how things were done. At the center and the top, we might put the king, okay, the king in providing that key leadership that's needed. Below him, there are two offices that are supremely influential in the state of Israel. Did you catch what they were by the characters that are mentioned? Okay, the priests, the priesthood is very key. David has been using the priests actually as part of his spy network in this situation. Pretty remarkable thing going on that way. What's the other key office that gets mentioned here?
Elders?
Not the elders, not quite yet. The commanders. He's talking about the general or commander of the armies. Okay, who's the new guy going to be?
Amasa.
Yeah, not Joab. Not Joab. Amasa.
Who's another relative.
Who's another relative.
You have to be careful there.
Yeah. I think David might be done with Joab. You know, Joab was right in what he said. But the generals are subject to the politicians, and this politician is saying, I've had enough of you. I've had enough of you. So Amasa is going to come in over here is David's plan. The priest over here is Abiathar, leader among the priests. And then we get to some of the other groups. What are the other groups that are mentioned after that?
The elders.
Okay, the elders, it's the elders of the tribes. And so I'd put all these, I should have put 12 up here. I'm going to run out of space probably. Okay? The 12 tribes of Israel, it's the elders of those communities that David thinks of next in building up his relationship with them. Key, though, is the biggest tribe, which is Judah. Judah. This is David's home tribe. And Abiathar gets sent to Judah and says, come on, guys. This guy's from your tribe. This guy's from your families. Let's get behind David, so that the other tribes will get behind him as well. Okay? David's head's back on his shoulders. He's maneuvering here, isn't he? We see him maneuvering again to bring about, in a good sense, peace in the kingdom. In a bad sense, you might say, restoring himself as a dictator. That would be the cynical sense of what David is up to. But that's where things are going in this leadership structure of Israel. Return both you and your servants. Verse 15, so the king came back to the Jordan, and Judah came to Gilgal to meet the king and to bring the king over the Jordan. So they go out like a delegation. I'm going to point to the map here real quick. David has been over here in Mahanaim, right there. Gilgal is down here, closer to Jericho. It's one of the places that Israel camped after they came into the Promised Land. So they travel south here, and they're going to cross the Jordan, but not until this delegation from Judah goes out and greets him. Welcome back, David. Welcome back. Everybody's so happy to see you. Everything's just fine, right? Yeah. That's kind of what's happening as all of this goes forward. All right. Now we're going to see, we've seen David maneuvering politically. Now we're going to see another picture of David as a leader as we get into the rest of the chapter here. David now meets an earlier rival who cursed him when he fled Jerusalem. Let's have somebody read verses 16 to 23. 16 to 23.
And Shimei, son of Gera, the Benjaminite from Bahurim, hurried to come down with the men of Judah to meet King David. And with him were 1,000 men from Benjamin, and Ziba, the servant of the house of Saul, with his 15 sons and his 20 servants, rushed down to the Jordan before the king. And they crossed the ford to bring over the king's household and to do his pleasure. And Shimei, the son of Gera, fell down before the king as he was about to cross the Jordan, and said to the king, let not my lord hold me guilty, or remember how your servant did wrong on the day of my lord the king left Jerusalem. Do not let the king take it to heart, for your servant knows that I have sinned. Therefore, behold, I have come this day, the first of all the house of Joseph, come down to meet my lord the king. Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, answered, shall not Shimei be put to death for this, because he cursed the Lord's anointed? He said to 21, right?
To 23, I think.
But David said, what have I to do with you, sons of Zeruiah, that you should this day be an adversary to me? Shall anyone be put to death in Israel this day? For I do not know that I am this day king over Israel. And the king said to Shimei, you shall not die. And the king gave him his oath.
Okay. You remember earlier when David was fleeing, right? He's getting out of the city as quick as he can because his son is moving in to take Jerusalem. Certain characters showed up when they got news of David's bad fortune, how things were going. And this Shimei is one of those people who comes out and rains down curses on David. How are things different now with Shimei?
He's back on David's side and says, I know that I messed up, so please forgive me for what I've done.
Okay.
He's eating crow.
He's eating crow.
Big portion of it.
Big portion of crow. Yeah, he's I might use the word groveling. He's groveling. He's coming to David, who is now a military victor, and coming in to kiss his feet and say, I didn't mean all this. Let me be among the first to greet you. He's got political savvy. He can see that nobody's going to rival David here, or it looks that way to him. And so he says, I better go kiss up, or I'm going to be kissed off, as they say, right? It's a tense moment for him. What do you think about David's response here to this fella?
He forgave him. Said he's not going to kill him.
Do you think this is wise?
It might not be wise later, but
Oh.
right now it is.
Okay,
Maybe that's the true David, the original David
okay.
of God's own son.
So
Yeah.
we're seeing we know this character is in David to show mercy. We know that he can be ruthless. We've seen that as well. But we've seen in David the sense of mercy. Yeah, and here it comes out again. What would be the advantages of showing mercy to this fella?
Well, his tribe would be more an apt to follow and not despise him so much for killing their leader.
Yeah, if he starts killing everybody that comes to greet him and support him, how's that going to look to everybody else?
You're dividing people up there.
Yeah.
You're better off to bring them together.
Okay. Yeah, the effort to make peace here serves David's good purpose, doesn't it? Yeah.
I was thinking while I was reading it of after the Civil War, when you had the South and you had to restore the South and get them back up on their feet. I mean, forgiving some of these leaders helps reunite the kingdom and get people back together.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, great efforts were made after the Civil War to bring about reconciliation. There were also a lot of issues that came up in what they call Reconstruction, as they were...
Well, every war, they got to consolidate. World War II they did, Revolutionary
Yeah.
War they did, it's always
Yeah.
going to need to be done.
Yeah, these are challenging moments, and you could, if you're too harsh, and it's kind of a storied thing in history to talk about how the Allies after World War I were too harsh to the defeated nations, and they believe that's, at least historians say this, they believe that's part of the reason World War II happened. It's because they had been so harsh after the First World War. So having balance in that situation, and then the other issue is they were too gentle as Hitler arose to power. They were too gentle and afraid of having the war. Yeah.
But then after World War II and after some other wars too after that, we kind of went in and rebuilt the cities and rebuilt the country.
Yes. Yeah, we have a tendency of doing that. We bomb a place level and then we go back in and rebuild it for the people we've conquered. That's kind of has been an American thing to do. I don't know if that's helping ease our consciences for what we did, in the fighting, or it's just an effort at peacemaking. I don't know how you would describe that.
I just know I was in southern Germany and it was all new. It was newer than Cleveland.
Yes.
Newer than Cleveland.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, they were very active in rebuilding. And I know from studying the history of the Lutheran Church that Lutherans in America organized and sent all kinds of aid over to their defeated relatives, basically, and as a part of that restoration and to put people back together. Yeah. Yeah, David is trying to make reconciliation happen here, isn't he? He's trying to be a peacemaker. He's not quite back into power, is he? So he's got to be somewhat careful. But you can see the efforts going forward. Yeah.
I think after going against the house of Saul and going against his own son, I think the last thing David would want is another Israelite civil war.
Yeah, to create more enemies. What a bad situation that would be. What a terrible thing that would be. Peacemaking, something we all as God's people need to be not just aware of, but to practice. Practice in our lives. Be able to make peace with each other. I can remember a tense voters meeting, not here. This is at another congregation where I served. Things got really, really tense. And they were trying to take a vote about spending a lot of money. Big money. Okay?
That'll do it.
Hundreds of thousands.
That usually will get 10.
Yeah. And there was kind of a debate going on and that kind of a thing. I listened to it for so long, and then I got up to take my turn to speak, and I said, let's just take a minute and say the Lord's Prayer. And we did. And they calmed down, and then they voted. I don't think we lost anybody from the congregation after that tense vote. I think everybody stayed. They may not have been as happy as they were, but I think if we practice this kind of peacemaking and pointing on what's ultimate and most important, that's our relationship to the Lord, that often that helps keep things calm, keeps things settled. Keep that big picture in mind of Emmanuel's relationship with its Savior as we remember the 126th anniversary of the congregation today. Yeah. We see David, mercy in a leader is an admirable quality. You want to see mercy in leadership. If you don't, I mean, if a leader is only ruthless, even if he's making the best decisions, if he's only ruthless,
It will catch up with him sooner or later.
it'll catch up with him sooner or later, and everybody's going to be terrified of the leader. And that's not going to go well. David shows mercy here. Let's see. Remember Ziba. Ziba was the servant in Saul's house who brought gifts to David when he was fleeing. He brought him food for his troops. But then had spoken evil of his master. His master's name is Mephibosheth, son of Saul. Now we're going to read about these guys and what's happening with them. Verses 24 to 30.
And Mephibosheth, the son of Saul, came down to meet the king, and had neither dressed his feet, nor trimmed his beard, nor washed his coat from the day the king departed until the day the king came again in peace. And it came to pass, when he was come to Jerusalem to meet the king, that the king said unto him, Wherefore wentest that not thou with me to me
Mephibosheth.
And the servant answered, My lord, O king, my servant deceived me. For thy servant said, I will saddle me up an ass, that I may ride thereon, and go to the king, because of thy servant's is lame. And he hath slandered thy servant unto the Lord, and the king, but my lord the king is an angel of God. Do therefore what is good for thine eyes. For all of my father's house were but dead men before my lord the king. Yes, yet didst thou set thy servant among them that did eat at thy own table. What right therefore have I yet to cry any more than unto the king? And the king said unto him, Why speakest thou any more of thy matters? I have said, Thou and Ziba divided in the land. And Mephibosheth said unto the king, Yea, let him take all for much, as my lord the king has come again in peace unto his own house.
All right. got two characters here, Mephibosheth, and what was the other fellow's name? Ziba. Who are these people real quick?
Saul's son.
Okay, this is the son of Saul. And who is Ziba? He's the servant of the other fellow. And you remember what Ziba does when David is fleeing the city? What does he do?
He gives him food and shelter and everything to help him make sure that he's taken care of while he's out.
Yeah, he comes out with all these gifts to David as David is fleeing from Absalom. And but one of the things that Ziba does as he goes out this way is he says rotten things about Mephibosheth. And that Mephibosheth is not a supporter like I am, is more or less what he's done. And I think David even makes him a promise. I'd have to go back and look to be sure. Something like, you're going to get Mephibosheth's land after this is over. In other words, for your gift and your loyalty, I'm going to give something back to you. You're going to get your master's property. But Mephibosheth comes out to David. Are there any signs that Mephibosheth was not disloyal to David? In that paragraph there. Are there any signs that he was genuinely loyal to David under the circumstances?
When he asked for forgiveness.
I don't know if he asks for forgiveness, but he says to the king, do whatever you want. You're the king. Do whatever you want. Yeah.
Well, he said that my own servant deceived me.
Okay.
And when he says, for your servant is lame, maybe he's talking to himself as lame.
Yes, he has an illness or difficulty in his feet. Mephibosheth is physically lame. And so without riding on a donkey, he could not get out to David as he fled.
That's lamb.
I have lamb? Sorry. I tend to write lamb more than lame, I guess. Maybe.
Get lame.
Yeah, it's a lame excuse on my part. Yeah, he's physically lame. He's infirm in his feet. And without the donkey that his servant would have supplied, there was no way he could get out to see the king. There's another sign. There's something else.
He didn't take care of himself. He didn't shave and he didn't wash his clothes and didn't take care of his feet, so he was probably a hot mess.
Okay, what does that mean?
Disrespectful.
Disrespectful?
Morning.
And he also said, yea, let him take all, because he was willing to give up all the land.
Okay, he's saying, go ahead and give this to Ziba,
Yeah.
but I'm here, David, as your supporter.
Right.
I'm here as your supporter.
He's coming back in.
Yeah.
He says that, I guess in reference to Ziba, that he has slandered your servant to the Lord your king, but he addressed David as the angel of God, and therefore what seems good to you.
Yeah, he calls David an angel. Angel is a messenger of God. So don't think, it's the Halo type angel. That Mephibosheth sees David in that light as the servant of God and a messenger of him. Yeah, the not washing his hair and taking care of his clothes and all of that stuff, he wasn't trying to be offensive by doing that. Those are all signs of mourning in the culture. Those are signs of mourning. And the fact that he had his beard grown out and all of that stuff while David was away shows that from the start he was mourning. Okay, it's evidence, we might say, that Mephibosheth was showing loyalty to David despite what Ziba had said about him. So now David has these two people in front of him, or two characters in front of him. Which would you choose?
One there choose then, the dirty guy.
The dirty guy. I'd choose the dirty guy, okay.
It said that in the Bible this morning.
Okay. Oh yeah, to show kindness to the poor.
Yeah.
You're thinking of in James. Yeah, what were you saying, Doreen?
I don't know that, he probably would pick the dirty guy because the other guy's a servant.
Okay.
So he's the lower status than him.
He is lower status, yeah. Mephibosheth is kind of nobility in the land. David goes out of his way to see that nothing happens to Mephibosheth because of his covenant and promises to Jonathan, right? He has made promises in the family that he will keep Saul's family alive. He's not going to just assassinate him, as often happened in those situations. So yeah, there's a relationship going on here. If you were going to side with Ziba, why would you side with Ziba if you were going to do that?
Because he helped.
He helped. He did help, didn't he? He brought out food and such to David's troops at a moment of crisis when nothing was clear and it looked for all the world like David and his men were going to get killed. He shows that kindness. Interesting situation. This is kind of those Wisdom of Solomon deals where you've got two courses to choose by and it's hard to choose. How do you choose? Someone started to say something and I didn't hear it. It's Jim.
Ziba was supposed to be going to just divide the land.
Okay, there was going to be a thing there with the land. Ziba, I think David promises Ziba the land that belonged to Mephibosheth. But let's see what happens now. How did that? How did it work out? Verses 29 and 30. And the king said to him, "Why speak any more of your affairs? I have decided. You and Ziba shall divide the land. You shall divide the land." And Mephibosheth said to the king, "Oh, let him take it all, since my lord the king has come home, or safely home." Which is kind of a last word of kindness and deference to David and his decision making, isn't it? But David in this case does what we might say is the expedient thing, as he tries to give some pleasing to both parties. Right? David is still on the ascendancy here. He's still trying to get his way back into power. And he, instead of causing a ruckus by choosing one or the other, creating an foe, he creates allies.
It's political.
It's very political. This is all very political, isn't it? And we can learn from this, can't we? We can learn from these experiences of God's people and how they go through things. Let's see now. I'm going to read verses 31 to 40. Where are we at in our timing?
25.
Okay, we still have a couple minutes here. I'm going to read verses 31 to 40, which is about some risk-taking here. Now Barzillai, the Gileadite, had come down from Rogelim, and he went on with the king to the Jordan to escort him over the Jordan. Barzillai was a very aged man, 80 years old. So if you're in your 80 out there, don't take it too hard, okay?
Back then, that was really old.
He had provided the king with food while he stayed at Mahanaim, for he was a very wealthy man. And the king said to Barzillai, "Come over with me, and I will provide for you with me in Jerusalem." But Barzillai said to the king, "How many years have I still to live, that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? I am this day 80 years old. Can I discern what is pleasant and what is not? Can your servant taste what he eats, or what he drinks? Can I still listen to the voice of singing men and singing women? Why then should your servant be an added burden to my lord the king?" He's talking about the hardships of old age, right? The things that he's experiencing here. And David's inviting him to come and be part of his court. Okay, come be part of the court. "Your servant will go a little way over the Jordan with the king. Why should the king repay me with such a reward?" Now here comes the other foot. Okay, he's saying, I'm too old. I'm not going to be a help to you. This isn't going to be a joy to me. You've got my support, sir. I'm behind you. And now the other shoe falls. Please let your servant return, that I may die in my own city near the grave of my father and my mother. But here is your servant Chimham. Let him go over with my lord the king, and do for him whatever seems good to you. And the king answered, Chimham shall go over with me, and I will do for him whatever seems good to you, and all that you desire of me I will do for you. Then all the people went over the Jordan, and the king went over, and the king kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his own home. The king went on to Gilgal, and Chimham went on with him, and all the people of Judah, and also half the people of Israel, brought the king on his way. What's going on there between David and this fellow who took him in when he was on the run?
You gotta pay him back, because he's taking him over and giving to him. His family will then stretch on into that further, because he's old.
Yes. Yeah, he realizes he doesn't have much of a future here. Right? He can't do much.
He passes along that favor to someone else younger.
Yes, to this Chimham, and sees that he's going to have a place in David's court, in David's kingdom, and the leadership there. What do you think of this Barzillai? Wise? Unwise?
Wise.
Wise. Wise. How so?
He knows that he's going to die, and he's going to slow him down, actually slow down the king instead of help him get there, and speed it up, which can be harmful getting there, taking so long to get there, and he just retreats instead of take this person instead, and do with him as you would me, and he will, he will return both ways the favor.
Barzillai is acting very wisely here, I think. Very wisely, I think, and then that makes me wonder, as a guy that's shrewd and wise and candid with you in the way he speaks, wouldn't he be an asset at your court? Wouldn't it be great to have people who were like that and thought and spoke clearly that way, instead of just serving their own interest?
Well, he'd lived through many experiences there.
Yes.
So he knew from experience what might happen or what might not happen.
Yeah.
And he might be favorable to David.
Yeah. Is age alone a reason to set people aside? No. 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 Wisdom comes with age, is what we learn in Proverbs.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah, there's no guarantee, is there? We have a saying, there's no fool like an old fool, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he must have thought highly of him to do that.
Yes. Oh, yes. There's a good share of respect passing between these two men as they carry on this way. And he doesn't say exactly who this Chimham fellow is. I think he uses the word servant, but it might be a member of the family.
The Bible study says they presume it's a son.
They presume it's a son. Yeah. And that makes sense under the circumstances. And then perhaps from David's perspective, you're getting the best of both worlds. You've got the youth of the son to serve at your court, and he can send a runner to dad, can he? If he needs to hear the insight of a fellow as wise as Barzillai seems to be. Interesting how this all goes. Let's see. We're going to stop there, I think. I'm trying to get through 2 Samuel. We have a meeting coming up on the 8th of October. We're going to be gathered here in Sartorius on that day, regular Sunday school hour, and we're going to be talking about this idea of having a van or a bus for picking people up and bringing them to church. Okay? But folks have been having questions about all of that, and we're going to have a discussion time about that. So that's coming up on October the 8th, and I was hoping to get this done before then. We might not. Let's bow our heads in a prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the wisdom and insight that the Holy Scriptures give us, that teach us about being good leaders, that teach us about being good and supportive followers in our work together in the kingdom of God. We pray, O Lord, that you would impart these insights and wisdoms to your servants here, gathered in your name. Through Jesus Christ our Savior we ask it. Amen.